I was reading some letters between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, and in their in their younger years, they were bitter enemies made so by uh, trying to advance their own political careers. But in their later years, they became friends and were able to have very cordial relations. One thing that Thomas Jefferson said in the last decades of his life is that he was reading very few newspapers and was reading much more classical literature. Newspapers are in business, well, yes, to sell, to provide news, but also to sell papers. If they do not sell papers, they do not have advertising. It's the same way with the media today that I find that I'm watching. Most of our media now, maybe most of your media, comes from the internet. And that is an issue. When I read in old literature, I'm right now very much enjoying the Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens. I could read that over and over again. But in the Pickwick Papers, there's the same thing that we see right now: the political rivalry between Mr. Slumkey and the man that he's running against. I forget the other guy's name. The Blue and the Buff, and the Blue hate the Buff, and the Buff hate the Blue, and Dickens has a good time with it. The rivalry between the Eatansville Gazette and the Eatansville Independent, and how they call one another vipers and throw names back and forth. Just to be mildly encouraging, this is the norm. They say, don't talk religion and politics. That's probably a good idea. I was a fool one day years ago. I hope it's been more years. I was over at my brother's house, and the topic of politics came up, and I felt I had something to contribute, and I started to it. My brother said, "Bob, stop." I had to go and apologize to him. One of the issues we have with the things that I see. I mean, if I turn on my phone, because now everybody, including the farmers up in the knobs of Kentucky, have smartphones, and I see a notification that says "Airline passenger gone wild." Why? Why do I immediately, I want to see that airline passenger go wild and get wrapped up in cellophane and gagged, and I don't know. This we if it bleeds, it leads. And these are the kind of things that get clicks. These are the kind of things I watch. I don't want to minimize the dangers that we're heading into with Republican voter suppression. You've maybe seen some of my other videos. You know how I feel about all these things, possibly. How repulsive Republicans have become. I would have rather stayed a Republican. Shoot, conservative, blame the victim? Oh yeah, it's a good life to live. But I couldn't stomach the just egregious lies that were constantly coming out. I don't think, you watch these horrible Tinker Cupcake on Fox News, and the sullen boys running off to show their guns in front of people they don't like, and These are the things we hear about, but I think it's important for me and it's important for everyone to believe their eyes at the same time. My neighbor across the street is a Trump supporter. I'm not. We had opposing signs up in our yard in any of the last elections that we've had. And good night, he's a good neighbor. And we brought over, my wife and I had a nice time visiting with him, brought over banana bread to them for Christmas. And we go to our, village council meetings together and want to do what we can to make things better in our neighborhood. I would like us to believe our eyes. When you go somewhere, now obviously if you go out on the roads, there's going to be people doing crazy stuff. And honestly, when I say that, I go, wow, that's not me doing crazy stuff. That's nice. Because I've made just as many mistakes as the next guy. But what you don't see on the road is the thousands of people that are driving very, very well. And I know we can't just say, well, these 100 people are doing well, so we don't have to care about the 2 people that are doing horribly. But we need to believe our eyes, the people that are considerate, the people that are courteous, that we meet the son of a gun single day. I don't think that is worth nothing. The old folks have always told us, and it's trite, but it's true, we need to believe the best we can of all men. I don't think there's 100 people across the United States that if Donald Trump said, I want you to kill as many people as possible today, that they'd run out and start killing all their neighbors. That's not going to change the face of the nation. Our children are still more safe in their schools than they are anywhere else. But, if a school shooting comes up, there you go. I'm clicking on it to find out about it, of course. But if you leave out sports injuries, forget about extracurricular sports injuries, our children are safer in school than they are anywhere else. If you go to Walmart and you just look at the people that are passing you, if you give them a smile, they'll give you a smile back. If I go out and walk my dog and a guy passes me by and I say it's a beautiful day, he'll respond the same way. We need to believe the best we can of all men, because otherwise it's a vicious spiral straight down. Tolerance is so important. It's so many people will never agree with me on the things I think are right. I think the Bible is true from the table of contents to the book of maps. And probably majority of people don't agree with me on that, but we can still work together, not by accepting what I believe. You don't have to accept what I believe. In other words, you don't have to believe everything I believe before we can work together. We just have to tolerate one another, and we can all work together, believing the best of one another as much as is at all possible.